Hello, everybody. It's the pollinator. It's about an hour from midnight, and I thought, you know what? I should be working on my book. I had therapy today, and she asked me if what happened to our goals, of which my book was one of them, and I told her I was incredibly distracted by a lot of other things, and it just kind of put me on track that I really need to work on that. So I did a little bit earlier, and then told myself I would work on well, I did earlier and then told myself I would make this video. So the title of this video is a very, very hot topic. And it's actually not a topic, it's just something that has been going on since I started transitioning, but didn't really notice it until sometime last year. And that is about non-binary people. I've said in my videos before that I remember in the earlier days, I was completely thrown off and confused about them. I was very, I had a lot of perhaps what was perceived to be intolerant views of them because I just didn't understand. I didn't understand what that whole conversation was about. But as I belong to a lot of groups on Facebook, a lot of female to male groups on Facebook. And, well, this doesn't happen in LGBTQIA groups, but it definitely is happening in FTM groups. And let me tell you what happened first before I go into what happened the other day. The first thing that happened, I think, was the end of last year, where a Facebook friend of mine put a post on her timeline talking about something that happened to her inside of a group where she was trying to get a better understanding of non-binary people, and there wasn't, I don't want to even say this word because that's not what she is. There was an FTM in that group because she took pictures of this person who was completely femmed out. I mean, her hair, her makeup, her fingernail polish. I mean, there was nothing, absolutely nothing about that woman that was, well, that woman who wanted to be called a man that was transitioning to anything. I mean, she loved everything about being a woman, but wanted to be called a female to male, which threw her into the non-binary category. And she defended her right to identify any way she felt like it, and her friends jumped in to her aid and totally blew my Facebook friend out of the water. And there weren't any of us in there to defend what she was trying. And she is very tactful in how she speaks, very non-confrontational, non-combative. I mean, she just wanted to get an understanding of why this particular female-looking person wanted to be called a female to male. What is that? So that happened, and we all made our comments and said, yeah, this is a strange phenomenon going on Facebook. And then and as time went on, I saw a lot, a lot of non-binary people getting in various arguments about their right to identify as gender nonconforming or gender queer or non-binary. And their arguments always seemed to be attacking men. Okay? Downright attacking men. Have a lot of female to males that identify as men defending themselves to these non-binary people who were like, don't call me a man, don't call me bro, don't call me dude, don't call me mister, don't call me this, don't call me that, don't call me anything that conforms to a gender. Call me them, they, their, those. But, okay, so, you know what? I don't have a problem with that. Let me tell you what I have a problem with. I created and run a group, and I'm not going to mention its name here on YouTube because I don't want every single kind of person on the planet trying to get in that group. And it's for I will say that it is for black only binary people. And I invited a advocate in the area that I know into that group, and I guess he read the description and saw that it was for binary people only, and he got upset and sent me a message saying that this ain't a group for me because it's not inclusive of non-binaries. And I said, okay, that's fine. I said, actually, what I'm going to do is make a post in the group and ask other people's opinions and talk with my moderators about it and see, whether we were going to do anything about that or not. And I don't exactly remember what happened exactly, but I have the final say in my group. It's my group. People are free to make any kind of group they want to make on Facebook. It does not have to include everybody. Just like that group is not for non-black people, I decided it's not for non-binaries either, because I didn't want 200, 300 plus people, and it's growing, to have to worry about these people's pronouns in that group. And what the advocate suggested was to completely change the language that I used to constantly include them. But here's what the problem is. That group isn't just about the description. That group is about what goes on in that group. And no sooner than I made that decision and I didn't even make it known in the group itself that I had this discussion with this guy, that, some people were fussing about the fact that non-binaries weren't included. I didn't really I didn't want to start any drama in the group. And no sooner than he left, at least 2 or 3 people jumped up and said, well, I'm not a man. And they actually were having arguments with other members in there, and I stopped it. I stopped the argument because I've seen that argument 100 freaking times on Facebook. I see that the same argument over and over and over again. And, that we're misogynists, trans men are misogynists, that they are what's the other word I want to, trying to be cis males, which, excuse me, but if you look in the dictionary and on various articles around the internet, the difference between cisgender and transgender is very, very, very simple. And, you know, it's not a judgment call. Cisgender is the opposite of transgender, and transgender is the opposite of cisgender. So anybody that comes along that says trans men are trying to be cisgender, they don't know what cisgender is, because we cannot be cisgender. But I see this argument constantly. So I stopped that argument. I quickly reached out to that, I guess I'll say, person, and tried to have a conversation, you know, about, you know, do you really expect all these people that are in here to not only remember your name, but remember your pronouns, given that people don't look at profiles before they speak to them? Okay? So it would have been a constant battle in there with that particular individual to be, quote, respected for their not wanting to be called he or she, wanting to be called they, them, their, those. I could quickly see if there were, say there were 400 people in the group, and 50 of them were non-binary. The focus of the group is on being black. It isn't on being transgender. I have said in other videos of mine that I am a black man who happens to be transgender. I'm not. So the group focus is not on being transgender, because there's cisgender people in there. There's lesbians, gays, gay men, heterosexual men, they're heterosexual women. I mean, the whole purpose of this group, which is not just a group, it's something that I'm turning into an organization, is to start to break down the walls that divide us. And as far as I'm concerned, non-binaries are another wall. You know, I also had a conversation, and I was trying to lighten it up with this person who had started these arguments in the group, that, you know, you guys need a whole different language. You need to create a language around yourselves, because, say for instance, I was in a restaurant. Don't know the person's name who's serving me. Do I yell out, and you're the person who's serving me? If I say, excuse me, waitress, or excuse me, waiter, okay, say I'm not transgender and I don't know anything about that world, what would you call them? See, there are binary words all over English. There are binary words all over French. There are binary words all over Spanish. There are binary words in every language in the world. This movement of trying to eliminate gender is bumping up against language. But they want, you know, these other advocates that are advocating for the being inclusive of non-binaries are not thinking about this issue realistically. I never got an answer about what I would call that person if they were serving me in a restaurant, and they, see, that doesn't even fit in a sentence. Anyway, they got all upset and just, yeah, and I just said, you know what, have a good day. And I ended the conversation, and they left the group. About a week later, it happened again with somebody else. I mean, see, they took the focus on black history, black issues, black transgender issues black. It's all about being black. It isn't about your transition in there. So they kept taking the issue off of the issues around being black and putting it on transition, which is not the intention of that group. And it's not going to be the intention of the organization that I'm starting out of that group. Who wants to sit around and argue about this stuff when we're being murdered and gunned down in this country? We've got a whole bunch of white supremacists running around trying to dispel that slavery. I just saw a post today, or I think it was an article today, where some white guy is trying to say slavery was a choice for us. See, that issue is way, 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 way bigger and older than this non-binary stuff that I really don't care about right now. Racism has been going on for a hell of a lot longer than these transgender issues. They are important, yes, but why don't they start their own group? Why do they have to? Okay. Anyway, so they act like, you know what, they can go and take over any group they want to and turn it into their transition instead of the intention of the group, of the people who started the group, the admins. I object. Start your own group, be an admin for that group, and you can have that argument all day long, because I'm sure there's people that will get in that group that are willing to sit there and argue about your pronouns all damn day long. I am not willing to do that. I'm not willing to have the focus of that group turn to transition, not with LGBTQIA and heterosexual people in there. Cisgender, no. They're not going to take over the purpose of the purpose of this organization. So now let me jump to what happened the other day. And then something else that happened because of that. So I was in another group, and somebody, a trans man, posed a question. And the question was, how are these people calling themselves males, and they're wearing makeup, and they're having their nails done, they look like women, they act like women? He said, let's have a healthy discussion about this. And, you know, what does it mean? What does it mean to be male? Because I really want to understand why these non-binaries are calling themselves FTM, as in male. I was the first one to see the post, so I made a quick comment that, you know what, I've seen this over and over and over and over and over again on Facebook, and I have very, very strong opinions about it. So I'm going to wait to see if any butthurt non-binary people jump in this post before I make any comments. And so the guy that made the post said, okay, I look forward to your comments. And so I got busy doing other things, but I kept getting notifications, of course, of that post because I posted in there. So when I see people commenting, I would observe, read what was going on. And yes, within about 15, 20 minutes, somebody came in there and started that same argument. I jumped in immediately and said, look, you know what y'all need to do? I said, female to male, FTM, it's automatic that you are transitioning to male. But you want your right to be called a man, while saying you're not a man. Interesting. So This person, well, I have a right to be called, anything I want to, or anything I identify as. And I said, yeah, you do. You do have that right. But you know what you're doing? You're confusing society of what a female to male means. And you're spitting on males with this argument that you have a right to call yourself non-gender, non-binary, gender non-conforming, genderqueer. So I said, I got an idea. Why don't you call yourself FTN, as in Nancy, N? Get out from under the female to male umbrella. Why are you under this umbrella and throwing bazooka blasts at males, people who identify as men, people who are living as men, people who are transitioning to male, people who have known they were a man all of their life? Why are you up under our umbrella confusing the hell out of everybody? I said, because I tell you one thing, if I see you in public and you got your hair done, you have your nails done, you're wearing makeup, and you're wearing a dress and calling yourself a man, an FTM, I'm going to call you an FTN. And I'm not going to address you as dude. I'll probably address you as something else. Whatever y'all decide. You just need to get away from this I am an FTM, because you're making it very, very difficult for people to take us seriously as men. If they turn around and interview you and you're saying, oh, I'm an FTM, I'm a female to male, but I'm not a male. Hello? What kind of sense does it make to say you're transitioning to a male, but you're not a male? That doesn't even make sense. And I said that in there to that person. I said, and I was joking and laughing and, LOLing and all over the place, because I was really trying to make light of the fact that non-binary people sound ridiculous up underneath the female to male umbrella. They need their own umbrella. And they need to create an entire infrastructure, an entire language to accommodate gender non-conforming. And I mean, we're talking all across the language, English language, and all across the language of other nations, other countries, because there is a serious problem trying to, I call the men and the women in my group kings and queens. The one that I talked to that left the group because I wasn't inclusive of non-binaries said, well, why don't you say kings, queens, and others? Okay. So if I'm having a conversation in here, there's a thread in here. Am I supposed to say king, queen, and others every single time every time I make a response to anybody, just in case they happen to be an other? I just see an incredible problem with that. And I see a problem with these so-called men wanting to be called men, wanting to be called male, while doing everything that females do. Visually, mentally, probably not emotionally if they're on testosterone, which trips me out too. Why? Forget that it trips me out. The fact is, every time I see female to male and non-binaries in a group, this argument starts about pronouns and about, identity and all this stuff. And it's like taking away from what's really going on in this country. Including, we need to get rights. It doesn't matter for any of us right now. We don't have a right in the world. We don't have a right in this country. LGBTQIA do, and they're just sitting back watching us and thinking they're immune from the attack that's going on in the administration, in the military, and in healthcare, and as far as all the issues that we face as transgender men and women and others, whatever. The focus needs to be there, not arguing constantly and calling trans men misogynists automatically. I mean, I've heard them literally when somebody identifies themselves as masculine, a man. Oh, you're trying to be cisgender. Oh, you're trying to be, you're a misogynist. Oh, you don't believe in feminism. Oh, this, and none of it's true. See, there's an automatic assumption being made by gender nonconforming, genderqueer, and non-binaries that to be binary means something negative, and they're going to attack it. They're going to attack everybody. And, you know, when I started this group, at least 100 of the 200 people that I started it with said, man, I am so glad you started this, because, you know, I'm having issues in the other FTM groups because of non-binary people attacking me because I'm masculine, attacking me because I'm a man. You know, the same argument can be had with lesbians. To me, non-binaries are like them, who don't want men anywhere near them, even if, you know, they don't want any kind of male in their groups. Now, I don't see anybody arguing about that. I don't see anybody in the transgender community trying to include lesbians, because they know damn well the lesbians aren't going to include them. See, you know, every group on Facebook, the first couple of sentences of the description of the group says no men. But they got a problem when I say no binaries, no non-binaries. I'm sorry, but I'm a very radical, strong black man. And if I don't want to include a certain group of people because of all the shit they start, I'm entitled to that. I have a right to that. I have to manage that group. I have to keep that group going. I'm the one that's spending all the time putting out fires, putting out transphobics that happen to slip into that group and start putting up posts talking about how we're mentally ill. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into running of a freaking group on Facebook. I don't want non-binaries to be part of that problem. So, because of what they do in other FTM groups to binary people, they really, they have an issue with us. And then in turn, we end up having an issue with them. But they're the ones that are firing the first shot every single time I've seen it happen. Okay, so I stopped paying attention to that post where a couple of non-binaries in there had an issue with what I was saying. It's like, I don't care. You want to be called a man, but you're not a man. Then what are you? You're a non-binary. You are transitioning to non-binary. You are transitioning to no label. You are transitioning to N, not M. You're not male. You're not a man. And I don't care what anybody says. No, you're not. Maybe if you stop doing that, maybe if you created your own acronym, FTN or whatever the heck you want to call it, because you're not transitioning to male. If you created that and you guys empowered each other in that kind of movement, then I would feel more inclined to include you. But I ain't including a bunch of troublemakers in my group, in my space that I have to maintain and manage. I'm not including a bunch of people who all want to argue about this this thing that also exists in the community, LGBTQIA community. There are a lot of people who have a very, very knee-jerk reaction to getting labeled anything. They don't want to get labeled lesbian. They don't want to get labeled bisexual. They don't want to be labeled as heterosexual. They don't want to be labeled as bisexual. They don't want to be labeled. And that argument goes on over there too. So, but see, I'm not in any of those spaces anymore. I left all lesbian groups on Facebook a long time ago, in the beginning of 2016, because I knew what was going to happen if they looked at my profile and saw a male there or FTM there. It'd be bye-bye. They wouldn't even have a discussion with you. You get booted. So, by the same token, if I see they in their profile, they're not getting in my group. And if I see anything that says they're non-binary, they're not getting in there, because I don't want them in there taking the focus off of uniting as black people and put it on transition, non-binary stuff, or binary stuff, whatever. That is not the focus there. So, oh, and the last thing I'm going to say is what happened on my freaking timeline is I put a post out saying that I find it very interesting that there's a couple of LGBTQIA groups that whenever I make a post, they sit there pending and piling up. And I've gone so far as to send private messages to the admins of those groups asking, why are my posts sitting there pending? I'm looking in the group and I'm seeing all the people posting in the group, and all the ones that are posting happen to be white, which I found interesting, that most of the people in those groups are not, they're white. And they will ignore black people's posts, and some people in LGBTQIA groups will attack transgender people. So, so that was the nature of that post that I put out, was that I found it extremely interesting that the admins of those groups are white, and the only posts I see going on in those groups are from white people, and not transgender, especially not transgender blacks in those groups. Sound familiar? Does it sound like right-wing people being anti-LGBTQIA? Yeah, these LGBTQIA groups are mimicking the behavior of these right-wing Christians that are after all of us. So they're making a subculture under their culture, which is also a subculture of the country. Anyway, somebody made a comment in my post on my timeline about that, saying that, well, maybe they're deleting your post, so they're letting them pin because you call trans men women. And I looked at it and thought, what? First, I typed in there, what? Because that had nothing to do with that post that I made. So, my head is clicking, and in the meantime, they put a comment in there saying, well, you did. You want me to show you a screenshot? Okay, what was this, a 15-year-old? You know what? I don't have time for games. That's my freaking timeline. I don't know what they were doing watching my timeline. I can say anything I want to on my timeline. What the hell were they doing in there talking shit about something that had nothing to do with what I posted? So I immediately, without even having a conversation with whoever that was, blocked them, deleted their freaking post, comment out of my post, and blocked them. And then I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? That person was probably sitting in that other group. It was it was a black female to male group. They were probably sitting in there watching that conversation. I didn't call that person a woman. I said, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it's a duck. That is what I said. But of course, you know what? I'm telling you, the non-binary people have a chip on their shoulder. Gender non-conforming, non-binary, genderqueer people have a chip on their shoulder, and they're very, very, very easily triggered about this, which I knew was going to happen. I knew that was going to happen in that post. That wasn't mine. I didn't create it. But I knew somebody was going to come in there butthurt over that, over us talking about that topic. It was just a matter of time. I was just sitting there watching and waiting. But that other person jumping on my timeline and attacking me for what they saw in a group, that's also childish as hell. You don't start drama on my timeline. That's my timeline. It's not a group. I can say anything I want to on there. And if people get hostile on my timeline, first of all, they don't have to be watching my timeline. Why are they? Mind their own business. I'm not on their timeline talking shit and creating drama. See, that whole scene is so high schoolish to me, that people run around watching other people so that they can make contradictory comments or start arguments in their posts on their timeline. You know, for those who aren't on Facebook, your timeline is your accounts, your own accounts, what you have to say on your account. You got, you know, a separate area for that than you do Facebook groups. And the things that you say on your timeline come across news feeds the way it's set up on Facebook. It comes across. So I blocked that person. It was like, I don't got time for this. And then right after that, an old friend of mine that I did not know was an old friend of mine, because he changed his name, got all butthurt over how pro-black I am. I'm telling you, that place keeps me hopping with a bunch of morons. I didn't even know I didn't even see the comment. What happened was, two friends of mine took a screenshot that this person was posting things on their timeline about me and telling everybody that I was hateful, that I was a racist, that I was this, that I was that, don't listen to me, blah, blah, blah. And all the time that I'm getting these screenshots, I'm like, who the hell is that? I didn't recognize the name. I talked to too many people, and when you change your name, I don't know who you are anymore. I don't know who you are. So I didn't know who was commenting, and I didn't see the comment. So after about the second time I got this screenshot of this guy, a friend of mine said, well, he made a comment on your post telling you off. I said, for what? And so I went to my post on my timeline and saw that somebody was woofing at me on my timeline. So I deleted his post. And what he did was he made that comment, whatever it was, I didn't even read it. He made the comment and then he blocked me, so I couldn't talk to him. So I still didn't know who this person was. And I made a completely different post saying that if anybody comes across this character and sees the things that he's saying about me, don't send me a screenshot. I do not care. I don't care if people are spooked by my being pro-black. I do not care. I don't care about that the way y'all racists don't care about what you're doing. I'm combating racism. And it doesn't mean I'm anti-white. It means I'm pro-black. And anything that's going to shine the light on the craziness of supremacists in this country, you know, y'all are the ones that are leaving us to fend for ourselves. So that's what I'm doing. You know, if other black people and white people and other people of color started doing what I'm doing, it would put a stop. It would make all these supremacist organizations throughout the country, it would make them stop and pay attention that this is wrong. Hate is wrong. And some people think that because I'm calling out the hate, that I'm hateful, because I'm very radical about it. I'm very outspoken about it. I'm very opinionated about it. So they accuse the victim of racism of being a racist. And I finally realized, I went to bed and I woke up and realized who this guy was. And it woke me up. I got up. I came out here. I jumped on the computer. I had a conversation with those two guys that alerted me of his presence on my timeline. And I said, I know who he is. I said, you know what? I didn't even know that was a black man. I met him. Met his wife too. And, you know, apparently I struck a nerve. The way that I am struck a nerve with him because he's with a white woman. So I said, but, you know, it's too late to talk with him because they blocked me. He blocked me. And, you know, what he should have done is sent me a private message saying he was upset about something I said. I wasn't talking to him. When I'm doing that on my timeline, I'm talking to everybody. They're public posts. I'm not singling out anybody. I'm not calling anybody out by their name. But when those two people attacked me, including him, I did call his name out and defended myself from what he put on my timeline and what he started spreading around Facebook, which was childish. I got time for that, okay? So, you know, basically there's all this fighting going on within the community, within the bigger community, and then within the bigger community. And what's interesting to me is, you know what, we should all be fighting the big community. But there's a problem because there's a whole bunch of people in the LGBTQIA people who are racists, including transgender people. There's a division right there. Many of them could care less what is going on in the black transgender community that's on the bottom of everything. They're a little above that, and then there's a whole group that's above that, and then you got the heterosexual, cisgender, Christian, right-wing, all them people above that. And then you've got various people of color, including black people who are somewhere spread in between, that also have a problem with us. So, you know what I'm seeing? A whole bunch of people that have a problem with a whole bunch of people. And nobody's organizing to deal with the problems and create solutions for the problems. Instead, it's just a great big old massive social media fight, which I'm like, you know what? I bet the owners of all of these social media businesses around the world are laughing their ass off every day, seeing how the monsters have created this environment where people can openly express their division and their upset with each other while becoming billionaires. Think about it. They're making money off us, folks. And they don't care that we're, shredding each other on their social media monsters. But again, I started this out by saying, you know what? I really, 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 really do believe that these females that are transitioning to no gender should have their own organization, should have their own acronym. They should get out from under the female to male acronym because they're not female to male. They are female to something else. And, cisgender heterosexual people are confused enough as it is looking at us without having this whole group of people, this whole movement of people who are making, who are some of them are trendsetters. Some of them are they're trendy. It's trendy to be FTM, so they'll call themselves FTM and then they'll defend that they're not. See, that is the problem I'm having with that. Is their right to, they can be non-binary. They can be gender non-conforming. They can be genderqueer, which I think is a sexuality thing, but I read recently that that too is a gender thing. But if they want that, then create that. Don't sit up under FTMs and then argue with them that they're the boogeyman and they're bad guys for being men. Stop it. No, they're not. They're not any more wrong for being men than you are for not being one. And being this other gender you want to create. And create it. All the way around. Create the whole thing. Don't expect us to create that for you. And for any advocates that are listening to this video, I'm sorry, I'm not joining you to include them, to be inclusive of them. I'm not doing that. I see it as a problem that is not promoting female to males. They're tearing them down. And I don't want to be any part of that. I want any part of that. No, I don't. When they stop attacking, then I'll listen to them. When they stop making me wrong for being a man, then I'll listen to them. When they stop expecting to be included while they're tearing us down, when they stop that, then I will listen to them. Until then, I think a whole bunch of them are confused and a whole bunch of them are full of crap, and they get the hell away from men, from female to males, until they can stop expecting us to carry them into whatever that movement is that is not gender-based. There's always going to be binary people, and there's always going to be non-binary people. But I'm sorry, it's like the difference between being white and black. We need to embrace each other's differences because we are all different. And we all have different transition experiences. And we all have different pronouns we want to be called. And we all have all these differences because we're human. But everybody needs to embrace that. But if you're not going to embrace mine, I'm sure the hell not going to embrace yours. And I see that entire movement as not embracing the binaries in that are female to males. They're trying to dismantle that whole thing. Ain't going to happen in my life because I'm a man. And I will always be a man. And I have always been a man. And I'm proud to be a man. If they don't like that, stay away from me. Stay away from my groups. Stay away from my timeline. I don't have time for it. The pollinator does not have time to waste on bullshit like that. That's confusing and it doesn't make sense. So, wow. Okay, my videos are getting longer and longer, but I just wanted to make one about this topic and understand that if you have a problem with it, don't watch my videos and don't get on my timeline to complain about it, because I don't care. Until you make yourselves clear, crystal clear, what the heck you are, and that you're not female to male, FTM, you're not. Until you do that, I don't want to waste my time in arguments with you, because it is a waste of time. I've got better things to do with my time than to coddle your FTN, as in Nancy, status. That's what you are. So, what is this? This is Wednesday. It's just right before midnight. And I want everybody to have a great rest of the week. And I mean everybody. I mean everybody. I wish well for everybody. If people could actually open me up and look inside, they would see so much love there that they couldn't stand it. But at the same time, you know what? I'm almost 60 years old. There's things that I see that are not going to change. Not without a loving person on the other end. I had to make that same decision about women. You know what? If you're not going to love me, how the heck can I love you? If you don't love yourself, how the heck am I going to love you? No, that's a recipe for disaster right there. And by the same token, until y'all non-binaries love us, I'm not going to love you. Not actively. I'll love you for the humans that you are. But you're not going to be one of my friends. You can unfriend me on Facebook, because sooner or later I'm going to say something that's going to trigger you, and you're going to be all over my timeline starting shit. And I don't have time for that kind of drama. You'll just get deleted, and then you'll get blocked. So, the pollinator is out for the night. Peace.